Hello, welcome. My name is Brandon, and today we're going to look at Vampire the Masquerade 20th Anniversary Edition using the Tourniquet Solo rules. These are some rules I wrote a few months back. They're available on drive-thru, but I think they need a little bit of touch-up. The easiest way for me to figure out what needs to be touched up is to play them, and thought I'd record myself playing them. So this is my background. I'm using Foundry. I've installed a little scale here for the scale of trouble and grace, which is part of the solo rules. I've put my vampire books in here so I can read them all on one screen. I went ahead and made a character. I realize I randomly rolled this name and I don't like Thorn, so I'm just going to give her a name of Thomas. So the only thing I haven't done for the character creation is the part I need to do for solo play and for storytelling purposes, and that's my story oracle. During the character creation, you should go through and list things that are important to the character or that make the character stand out on your story oracle, which is just a random chart of 1 to 10 of things that matter to you as a player about what you want to explore as the character, right? So my character is Bethany Thomas. She is Venture Anti-Tribute. I don't know why it still says Venture up here. She's 9th generation. She is Sabbat, but kind of X. Because my timeline here is going to be modern knights, so I'm going to pull a lot from the 5th edition of the game, but there's so much I dislike about the 5th edition of the game that I'm not going to pull it all. But one thing I do find interesting is the kind of how they've pushed the Sabbath back into the Sabbat, however you want to pronounce it. They pushed it back into this kind of secret boogeyman kind of phase. And I'd like to start this character as being kind of wayward, like lost, like her pack disappeared. She doesn't know if they left her. She doesn't know if they were killed, because she is, a knight, a crusader, Venture Anti-Tribute. She was around. She was around long enough to learn the path of honorable accord from them. They tried to train her in, fighting with swords and the things that they really hold value. But all they really instilled in her was a sense of honor and not the physicalness. Because before she became brought into the fold, she was a failed FBI recruit. And she was very perceptive and really good with the firearm and very quick. But she was always bullheaded and acted first, and she kind of just washed out because of her attitude more than anything else. So there are two things we can put on the story oracle, right? First one is what happened to her pack, right? That works. Next one could be FBI. All right. Because she's, or whatever, Fed, FBI, agency, I don't know what agency she was. And then I'm going to look at my character, and I think what happened to her pack / sire is the same thing. And I haven't named the sire yet, not a big deal. Then we look at character and anything that's really major on it. So she's fast and tough. Why is she tough as nails? That's what I want to know. What brought her up that way? And then why is she so alert? I think those two things are tied in together. And so I'm literally just going to put tough as nails here. Alert. And what that'll do is when I'm rolling the game and I roll that, I can be like, okay, well, something about what made her really alert has come back to haunt her. And then I can define it there. So like if it could be like she grew up in a bad neighborhood, or her parents were also investigators, any of that sort of thing. She also has a 3 in investigation, so I think that's going to tie back to the FBI more than anything else. I think the path, her path of honorable accord is going to actually going to be on my list here. The interesting thing about playing solo is, for me, is figuring it out as I go along and not writing lengthy histories beforehand. That's how I roll. So that's enough for me right now. There is also in the Tourniquet rules a reason oracle, and the reason oracle goes hand in hand with the story oracle. If like I roll one of these empty spaces, then I then roll on the reason oracle and I plug it in and I figure out a story reason based on those two things. As you can tell in the rules, the story oracle was a lot more fleshed out when I made my character, but my sample character, but that's because I wanted to show you what's going on. So the biggest difference when I take a game and I make it soloable is I make it player facing. I don't want to spend my time rolling my character's rolls and then the bad guy's rolls. And with Vampire the Masquerade, especially 20th and before, 20th anniversary, and then like revised, that's a lot of rolls. That's like I rolled a hit, count my successes, they rolled a dodge, compare. If I did hit, I roll my damage, and then they roll their soak, and then blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to do that. I want to move fast, and I don't want to get bored. So we'll be doing player-facing rolls. I will be making the default difficulty 6 pretty much for all my rolls, unless I'm resisted and I know the stats of the person, and then I will use 6, and I will assume that they have successes equal to half their stats. So, for instance, if they have a 6 combination of dex and firearms, it's 6, and we're having a gun battle, they will automatically get 3 successes. But I will roll against a 6 also. I will round down if the number is an odd number, just to make it a little bit easier for me. But it's still going to be super hard. And then I have some notes that I'm going to change already. For instance, in multiple opponents, it double whammies you, and I'm changing that. And there's like some botch references. So I am accepting 1s, deleting successes in the roll, so botch rules. But I'm not accepting that if I roll 1s without successes, that it is a complete like failure botch. It's because what's taking the place of that is this thing called the scale of trouble and grace. And every roll, every action I take is going to add or subtract from the scale. And I'm going to use the option I hardly ever use in this game when I'm playing it by myself, and that's the base one. And that's if I roll a successful action, every 8, 9, and 10 I roll adds +1 to the scale. And if I roll a failure, every 3, 2, 1 I roll takes 1 from the scale. And I can burn the scale and make bad or good things happen when I need them, or if the scale ever gets to -10 or +10, something bad or good automatically happens, depending on which end it is on the scale. And then these are the charts that tell me what that is. And these kind of replace the spontaneity that you have when you're playing with a group, where like you don't know what the storyteller is going to say. You don't know what's going to happen next. And that not knowing is what's exciting, part of what's exciting. So the scale imparts that into the solo play environment. So how do you start? Right? How do you start a game? You have no storyteller, you have no plot. And I'm a firm believer of moving the character forward by making them roll dice. If they are successful at their roll, then they get what they want. If they fail, they don't. So the question for me is, what is she doing? She is fully ingrained in this idea of honor. I've actually made her kind of typical for vampires. She only feeds on those unworthy of it. So criminals who betray their friends, but not necessarily criminals, people who have gone against their word. So she is always on the lookout for that, because it's really hard to eat when that's all you can eat, because she still is a Ventru. She still has that blood restriction. So I imagine if she is not doing anything actively, she hasn't sworn that she would do something for somebody, then that is what she's doing. She is hanging out, watching for that type of thing. I think she has really drank the Sabbat Kool-Aid about the Ventru betraying the clan, that they're all gross. And I think that coming to a city of Camarilla ruling, she may actually target them if she finds them. But the Camarilla have become very reclusive as of late, and Anarchs probably control most of the city from an obvious standpoint, from an outsider type of view. I'm just going to roll. Let's roll and see where she's at. At least what area of town. Now, if you're playing in your own area of town, your own city, you should make a city oracle. Like this one is a generic one. Go ahead and make one, you know? That way when you have this question, you can just... 8. She's in a suburb. A new suburb, if that. So like, you know, the edge of the city where a lot of vampires don't go because the population is too aware and everything's too glitzy and clean. Wonder what she's doing there. A subway or rail station in a new suburb. So I don't think they have like a underground subway. I don't know what city it is, but I'm not imagining it being like a major city like Chicago, because boy, that'd be a can of worms if I was going to just pretend and rewrite Chicago in the vampire game. We'll call it some other Midwestern town like St. Louis or Kansas City or something. And so maybe it's more of like she hitched a ride on a freight train, and it's not a train station per se. It's like a abandoned train station, because, you know, as passenger trains dwindled, all the old passenger train stations just become abandoned buildings. So I imagine her just maybe she's holed up in an abandoned passenger train station in a suburban area. You know, like the area grew up around this older town, but now the older town is new again, that type of thing. And maybe the train station's been repainted and it's not like completely broken down, it's just repainted and looked really nice. Maybe it's next to a park, you know, it's one of those like it looks pretty, but the train still comes through and it kind of annoys the people who come to the park and it's really loud. That's what she's doing. That makes me think that she's new in the town, which makes sense for her character, because she left or was abandoned, and so she's been kind of wandering America since then. You know, she probably has a sword too, because she is a Ventru and Antitribu, and they are very much like into that type of crazy symbolic more knights type of thing. I bet you anything she might even have like at one time I've had like plate armor, like little bitty of metal plates in her coats and stuff, because that's how I picture a lot of these, a lot of them being. But she probably doesn't use the sword. It's probably just something she carries. So, because, you know, a sword is a trench coat, and it's her strength's only 2, so it's only it's only a 4 damage. Yeah, it's probably wrapped up. Maybe it's the sword of her sire. There we go. Sword of her sire. It's wrapped up in her belongings. So maybe she's just found this place to stay secure. She's kind of pried up some floorboards and kind of ditched the sword and like her 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 travel clothes, like her heavier coat and stuff, under this floorboard. And she has a few hours left in the night before sunup, so she's going to go and hunt and see if she can find somebody that she maybe not feed on tonight, but feed on soon, because she has to make sure that they are not worthy of honor in order to feed on them, and that's hard. And I'm not sure she's hunting to actually hunt, but I'm going to treat it like a hunt. And I think I'm going to do wits plus streetwise. I mean, she has appearance of 3, but she's not trying to like go and seduce somebody. She's mostly just trying to gauge the area and see like what type of activity would be here that draw her attention. Because she's in suburb, though, this difficulty is 7 instead of 6, and I'll go ahead and go with that. Her wits is 3. Her streetwise is 1. Not very good, but that's okay. We'll see what happens. Wow. 2 successes. Not bad. So not only will she find somebody, she this goes up to 2. So the scale goes up by 2 because she got 2 successes. Yeah, we'll go ahead and let her feed. We will go ahead and let her do that. So we will I wonder what she finds. What does she find? Do I have charts for that? Do I have some oracles to let me know? I have a personalities oracle. Yes, I do. So 3 and 9. A farmer. That makes no sense. Or does it? This is funny. So, a lot of suburbs have farmers markets. And the farmers come in and they set up their stalls. Sometimes they do it the morning of. If it's a multi-day farmers market, they may leave their wares there. So I picture close to this train station, there's a town square, an old town square. And this is what's happened. There's a farmer's market set up. And as she's walking around, she notices a man going through everybody's stall and finding the fresh produce and then taking it and switching it out with bad produce from his stall. So he's just switching it out, which is totally not cool with her. So, and that does fit the clause in her sheet of not worthy, unworthy of honor, right? Because he's totally like being deceptive, and deceptive is something she really she dislikes it. So she feeds on him. However, she does know that you can't drink too much from her prey. She's not stupid, but she kind of wants to scare him, because this guy isn't a hardened criminal. It's just somebody trying to get along. So she's going to attack him, bite him from behind, so he can't really see what's happening, lick the wound, and then spin him around, kick him a few times, and in the shadows and the darkness, tell him to stop trading food. Be kind to your neighbors. You're all in this together. And then kind of laughs at herself as she walks away into the dark, because she thinks it's funny to tell people to be kind after she just beat them up. So I think that's how that's going to work. And then she's going to go back to the train station and rest for the night, or the day. So her survival is 0, but her wits is 3. We'll just make her roll it. 3 against 6, roll. Success. So we'll make that come up to 1. And I'm not talking this through really, but the reason that I'm making her roll survival is because is this train station really is abandoned, like not used, just eye candy as she thought it would be? So I rolled it because if it came up with no, then I would have given her a really unpleasant surprise either the next night or in the middle of the day. But if it would have came up yes, like it did, with no ones, then she sleeps pretty through the night or through the day. So I think the next night she's going to, because she's really searching for clues as to what happened, right? And she is going to get up and try to find other vampires. You know, she's in the spot. Maybe she's part of a war party before, and she's used to coming to a town and just wreaking havoc and having vampires come at her. But now she wants to do it slowly. She wants to try to figure out who's who and what the power players are. And she knows she's in the suburbs because she doesn't know if going right into the heart of a Camarilla city is going to be that bad. So she's going to try to get to know some anarchs, some caitiff or some thin blood at the edge of the city. And so we're going to go and try to find them. She's going to wake up and erase a blood point because she woke up. And then she's going to go and try to find some clubs or something that are in this suburban area and try to see if she can find any vampires. Now, I have aspects, so she has heightened senses. She can also aura see. But I think I want to first know if she finds a place where there potentially could be vampires, and then roll again to see if she finds them when she's there. So I'm going to do investigation and wits to see if she knows enough to go sniff out where vampires in the suburbs could be. That's 6. Again, I'm rolling against 6 default. Oh, look at that. We got 4 successes. -1 because we rolled a 1, so we got 3 successes. All right. So yeah, 1. So now I'm up to 6 on my chart here. So we're doing good. I find a place. What type place is it that I find? Do I have a good chart here? No. Oh yeah, let's just roll it. Why not? I have the charts, so. Huh. A newspaper office. I think she spends quite a few hours driving around the suburbs. I'm gonna assume she has like a broken down, beat up car that is like more trouble than it's worth. Because she has no resources, so maybe she stole it from the last town. And she spends time in this suburb has nothing that she thinks would possibly ever have vampires in it. It's just too glitzy and too clean. She's going in and out of coffee shops. She's just looking and searching, and she picks up some newspapers so that she doesn't look like she's just loitering at certain places. Like she goes into Starbucks and she picks up a local free newspaper, like the area of town it is, Diet Journal or something like that. And this is a while after she started searching. And she opens it and she starts reading it kind of cursory because she doesn't really care. But then some statements jump out at her and some like wording that makes her think that there's some communication going on in this newspaper that is not legitimately human. That there are key terms and some key misspellings of certain words that are really similar to some of the drop notes that the Sabbat would use when communicating with inside a city but they're not the Sabbat's code. So she decides to go to the newspaper office, which is not too far away, and see what she can find out. And that's where we'll stop for tonight, because I want to keep these probably under 30 minutes. So Bethany has tracked down a place that could potentially have vampires that can give her some information. And I just randomly generated that by rolling and using those rolls to determine if she gets what she wants or she doesn't get what she wants. And then using an oracle in the tourniquet rules to tell me where. I would have never thought newspaper office on my own. I would have thought like nightclub, that type of thing. I would never have started her in the Richie suburbs, but it seems to work out and it makes sense for her coming to town. So next time, we'll just try to get her introduced into the city somehow and see how that works. Maybe even spin some of this scale. She has 6, so she can do some pretty good things. All right, I'll talk to you later.